Good morning, Colorado. You are listening to the Daily Sun Up. It's a conversation with the Colorado Sun. I'm team editor David Krause. Before we jump into today's conversation, here is a quick message from our sponsor.
Take a day to focus on your goals and learn from top thought leaders. The Ames Community College Spotlight Speaker Series returns September 16th with best-selling authors Dan Heath, Susan Cain, and change leadership expert Cassandra Worthy. All live at the Ames Welcome Center in Greeley. One day, 3 powerful perspectives. Set the summer trend. Electrify your lawn equipment and help reduce harmful ground-level ozone in your Front Range community. Learn more at simplestepsbetterair.org. Journalists at the Colorado Sun don't tell you how to vote, but we make sure you're informed when you do. Donate to keep independent news free for all Coloradans at coloradosun.com/primaries-2026.
Now, back to the show. Hey, everybody. Happy 4th of July week. Hope you are staying safe and having a great time. Thanks for joining us here on the Sun Up. For the past few weeks, we have been rolling out our Colorado 150 series, celebrating 150 awesome things about Colorado as we count down to the big statehood anniversary day on August 1st. We have had tens of thousands of folks check out our series so far, and hopefully, listeners, you've had a chance to check it out and maybe pick up on a few things. Arts and culture reporter Parker Yamasaki and I have been working on this project for months. We've talked about it a couple of times here on the podcast. I'll include those in the show notes as well. But Parker thought it'd be fun to start July with a little holiday week and kind of let people know what we've got coming up for the last part of the series.
Yeah, sounds great.
Parker, we hit the halfway point in June. How you holding up so far?
Good. It's been really fun because, like you said, we spent so many months working on this before any of it launched. And so, we came up with these lists months ago, and it's been cool to let some of them rest and then come back to them at this point. Some of these lists, we worked on for months and then I haven't seen for the last 8 to 10 weeks. And so, it's been cool to reopen those and be like, ooh, what did we put on here? And kind of re-emerge myself in them.
Parker, a couple of things we highlighted last month in June: performing arts venues, visual arts, and of course, mining, big history part of this of Colorado. Something that's really near and dear to my heart. Parker, let's talk about first our performing arts list. You are the arts and culture reporter, so certainly a list that no pressure, but how do you feel we did?
The performing arts and venues one was really fun because, of course, we had to start with Red Rocks. I feel like that was, a pretty natural starting point for us. That was one of the big ones that had to make it onto the list. And one thing that I really like about Red Rocks is that it's so emblematic of how we see concerts in Colorado. Of course, we have tons of really, really awesome small and mid-sized venues, but the idea of seeing a show outside and sort of like the natural venues that we have, especially in the summertime, is such a big part of concert going and festival going in Colorado. All of these towns that have their festivals, their music festivals tucked into the corners of the mountains. I feel like that's a big part of seeing live music in Colorado, whether it's, Sunday in the park, free music, or going to something big like Telluride Bluegrass. And so that's why it was fun to think about all of the different places that you can see performing arts and music. I think Shakespeare and the Songers also made it in there, so we expanded it out. It's not just music, but that was kind of a focal point. And it was fun to be able to think about, all of the different venues in quotes that we go see shows here in Colorado.
I think what's cool about Red Rocks is the fact, Parker, that you could probably go to any musician around the world and say, have you ever played at Red Rocks? And you don't have to say anything else, right? They know what that venue is. It's like the Hollywood Bowl or, the Garden or something. I really do feel like Red Rocks kind of has that allure, and everybody remembers their first concert there.
Do you remember your first concert there?
I do remember it was Lyle Lovett and his large band in the rain with my wife. And I want to say it was May of 95, might have been 96, but I remember it was chilly and it was for our anniversary. And we gutted it out, but it was a very welcome to Red Rock show. The shows I've seen since then, not nearly as chilly and I don't like to use the word miserable anytime in Colorado because it's just we're in Colorado, right? How can you be miserable? But challenging, I will say it was challenging. How about you? What was your first Red Rock show?
My first Red Rock show, it's embarrassing to say, but I don't actually remember who played. But I remember the show distinctly because my first job when I moved to Colorado was at a ski shop, classically. And one of the things that the ski shop always went and did was we went to the Icelandic Winter on the Rocks shows at Red Rocks. And so it was a lineup of various people, couldn't tell you who. The thing that I do remember from that show, though, was we were kind of up on that upper balcony the whole time. And I just remember watching a lightning storm or like a thunderstorm and watching the lightning move across the plains because you can see so far out from up top there. And just watching the lightning move from the south to the north was, that's actually the strongest memory I have of that show.
Parker, you also did our list on visual arts in June. Run down a couple of those that you liked.
I kind of tried to shoehorn a bunch of extras into my intro because there's so many visual art spots that I love and love to recommend here in Colorado. A couple that made it onto the list that are big favorites of mine. I really like what the Emmanuel Project has done with the Chicano Murals of Colorado project. And I was actually down in San Luis recently reporting on a different story and was just kind of transfixed by this mural. And it's the mural that we actually ended up running with that entry. So the title of it is escaping me right now, but if you check out the visual arts list, the mural of the woman with a harvest basket in her hands, that one really struck me. And I just happened to be driving by in San Luis and someone that was in the car with me pointed it out and we stopped and looked at it. That is a mural that was preserved as part of this Chicano Murals of Colorado project. So super standout project. Another one I love is the Range in Saguache. They're a real small artist-run archive museum gallery there. And they have a show coming up on Ramblin' Roy Smith, who was a Saguache local, passed away earlier this year, but they're doing kind of a retrospective of a ton of his work. He's a fun guy. There have been stories on him before. That's opening on July 10th. And so if people want an excuse to go out to the range this summer, I definitely recommend looking up that show and seeing if you can get out and seeing that. And you'll get a good taste of what they're about out there. A couple of other things I'll say. Like I said, I tried to shoehorn as many as I could into my intro, but there are a few more that we left out. One of them, I kind of had to recuse myself from adding. It's Green Box Arts in Green Mountain Falls. I've actually worked with them before, and so I couldn't, maybe ethically add them to the list, but I'm going to shout them out here anyway. Green Box Arts has an incredible festival, and that kicks off on July 4th. So if you're listening to this podcast, Green Box Arts Festival is about to kick off for the next 2 weeks. That's a super cool arts festival down in Green Mountain Falls in the Pikes Peak region, just west of Colorado Springs. And then we had a reader wrote in and said that we missed the Museum of Friends in Walsenburg. I have read about the Museum of Friends before. I'm pretty familiar with it. We didn't include it on the list because, like I said, there's a million and one places I wanted to include. But I think it's worth shouting them out because they just received a Governor's Creative Leadership Award this year. The founders, they do a lot of community engagement down there, and it's a really cool place. And so the Museum of Friends in Walsenburg also gets a sort of a retroactive shout out. We also looked into mining this month. Dave, that's kind of your realm. What did we throw on the mining list?
I love it. It's something I've done for years in Colorado, decades, really just driving around these roads and just getting connected to that history. We had a couple of really iconic ones that you just have to have on the list. The Crystal Mill, of course, I've seen that photo all over the country in hotel rooms and high rise buildings. And I just think it's so funny that and awesome that it's just in Colorado, not too far from the town of Marble. Not easy to get to by far. I've biked there, I have jeeped there, and I have hiked to the mill. Not an easy way, even in a jeep bouncing around. But boy, is it just it's just cool to be able to see something like that after seeing it all over the country. Like I said, the Argo Mill. A lot of people see the mill when they're coming out of Denver to in Idaho Springs. The cable car just opened up. I was up there a couple of weekends ago, actually doing the Oh My God Road, which goes kind of right by the Crystal Mill. So that's a fun one. And I think, St. Elmo Ghost Town and Ashcroft Ghost Town, those are kind of really fun and really easily accessible ghost towns to kind of go check out and learn a little history there too, especially up at St. Elmo, which is near Buena Vista. They're really putting a lot of money into telling the story of that town. So I do appreciate we heard from one reader, and we'll talk about this later in the podcast, but we are taking submissions from readers on what we left out or some of their favorite things. And one that we didn't get in the list was the 3-part complex in Silverton, which includes the Mining Heritage Center and some other national heritage sites around there. But really glad to have that on the list, one that I'll have to go check out, especially next time I'm down in the Durango area. But really, really cool to see, not just seeing the number of people, Parker, who are clicking on our stories and learning about different places, but also coming up with ideas for us. We've got a few things coming up in July to close out the series. Parker, we just released the public parks this week. You and I went over that list quite a bit. So many things. That's one that, boy, there's a lot of things left on the cutting room floor. What are some of your favorites?
Yeah, I mean, we deliberately expanded it out to public parks to make it not just about the national parks and monuments, but in doing so, it means that we're also leaving out some really spectacular sites. My favorite one on there has got to be Dinosaur National Monument. I love that place so much. I think it's so cool. Anyone, especially families, any kids that are going through their mandatory dinosaur phase, it's just baffling to go out and see that quarry wall where all those fossils are. Really, I've never seen anything like it. And if it were on the Front Range, or if it were closer to Denver, I swear there would be like an IKEA style line of people constantly moving past that wall. But because it's way out in the northwest corner of the state, you kind of get the place to yourself sometimes, depending on when you go in the week. And it's really spectacular. And that's kind of its heart. But then, of course, you also have the entire park behind it, which has such a range of ecosystems. It's wild. You've got the Green and the Yampa rivers creating these super steep river valleys, and then you've got sort of the sloping desert side that works its way into Utah, where the western entrance is. And so you just get a ton of different Colorado ecosystems in one spot, and you get dinosaurs. And there's hardly ever any crowds, and it's a dark sky site. So, I mean, a lot to love out there. Do you have any favorites on the list, or any that you are definitely on your to-do list?
Well, all of them. I mean, I haven't, the 10 that we narrowed it down to, I certainly haven't been to all 10. I think I've been to 7 of them. But, I love Rocky Mountain National Park, kind of the opposite, right, of Dinosaur. It's close. It's a windshield park is what I've heard a lot of people refer to it as. I think the number is like 80 or 90% of the people who go through there don't ever get out of their car, which I think is interesting. I was just there 2 weekends ago for the 3rd time this summer. So been going up there since the 90s as well. Love that area. Mesa Verde, of course. We didn't get the sand dunes, right? Because as you mentioned, like we could have listed all the national and parks and monuments and had a incredible top 10 list, but
That's
you
right.
got to
But
leave things out. But
I do
sand
think
dunes is also awesome.
we included the Hooper Hot Springs, which are it's Hooper, right? That's part of the sand dunes
Yes.
complex. Yeah. And
Yep.
kind of talked about the river there. So we were able to kind of sneak in the sand dunes in a different category without letting it take up space in the parks.
Parker, we've got a couple more coming up in the next month to close out the series, like I mentioned at the top of the broadcast. Tell us some of those categories, and then let's talk about what we're hearing from the readers.
Yeah, we've got drinks coming up. We've got sporting events. So sporting events is a fun one, and that's something that we're going to be hosting an event around in Colorado Springs. We're going to be talking burro racing. So, we've got all these classic Colorado sports. We've got trains and trams, and then we're closing out with a statewide list. So that's fun things like leaf peeping, 14ers, rodeos, state fair, these sort of like broader cultural events here in Colorado that can't necessarily be pinned to one place.
Parker, we both kind of mentioned we've heard from readers, but you're kind of curating the list, and we're going to put that together in the fall and just kind of keep this series going. What have you heard? What kind of response are we hearing?
Well, we talked about a couple of them. We got, for the visual arts, we had the Museum of Friends. For the mining, we had the Silverton Complex. And so we're getting a lot of good input as we publish these, lists, because it might trigger something in someone. They might have a good memory. We've got a couple dozen responses so far, but definitely you don't have to wait until there's a pertinent category to submit your submissions. If there's just something that feels really distinctly or uniquely Colorado to you that you want to shout out, it doesn't have to fall into our neat categories. You should definitely just shoot us those so that we can add it to our reader submission list later this fall.
If you haven't already, you can check out our Colorado 150 series. It's on our homepage and on our free Colorado Sun app. The link to get there is in the show notes, but it's pretty dang easy. coloradosun.com/Colorado-150. There's also a link on that landing page that has all our lists, as well as a link to fill out a form to give us your reader submission. So go check it out through July, and we look forward to hearing from everybody as we close out the month. Parker, have a great 4th of July weekend, and we'll catch up with you soon.
Thank you. You too, Dave.
Thanks for listening. And finally, here are a few stories that you should know about today.
Colorado's 1st Congressional District will have a new representative for the first time in 30 years. 29-year-old Milot Quiros defeated 15-term incumbent Diana DeGette in Tuesday's Democratic primary. Quiros, a Democratic socialist, is likely to win the general election. The district that covers Denver has not had a Republican representative since 1970. A second person has died this summer after falling from one of Colorado's 14,000-foot mountains. Officials said Wednesday the hiker, who hasn't been identified, died on Little Bear Peak after a large chunk of rock broke loose, causing the person to fall a significant distance. In June, a solo trail runner died on Mount Sneffels. The Aspen Acres fire burning south of Pueblo has consumed more than 35,000 acres through Wednesday and destroyed at least 180 structures. The fire made a big run Tuesday night, forcing more evacuations. It is one of a number of wildfires burning across western and southern Colorado.
To read these stories and much more, visit our website, coloradosun.com. As an award-winning nonprofit news outlet, we take our mission of credible, independent journalism seriously, and you can check out our trust indicators at coloradosun.com/ethics. Our music is by the Denver-based Matt Skellinger Group. A link to their music is in our show notes. And a special thanks to Swallow Hill Music. I'm David Krause. See you next time.